Soulmates. We have plenty to discuss on this Thursday, January 5th. Happy Founders Day to the captivating men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. My husband's Anoop. Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
Well, my father's Anoop.
Okay.
But I'm just Nicordelai Corte. We are honored to stand behind this desk each day to take you on a journey across Black America and the stories that impact our people.
Yeah, we're going to bring you our views, our news, our views, and our voice. And topping in top at today's headlines, let's go to a family of an Illinois pastor killed in a car accident. They are asking for answers after the driver at fault has not been charged in this death. Now, according to reports, 87-year-old Pastor Neely Dotson was killed in the crash last May, but no one was ever charged in the accident. And the officers say the driver who hit Dotson was going more than 70 miles per hour. Now, the family wants to know why this driver was only ticketed for speeding. In addition, reports detail the driver also reportedly did not provide a blood and or urine sample at the hospital after indications that he reeked of alcohol and marijuana. The case is still being investigated.
The Massachusetts woman convicted of fatally stabbing her two young sons in what police called a ritualistic killing was sentenced this week. 48-year-old LaTarsha Sanders will serve a mandatory term of life in prison. Her sentencing came a day after she was convicted by a jury on 2 counts of first-degree murder in the February 2018 deaths of 8-year-old Edson Brito and 5-year-old Layson Brito. The boys were found in the family's third-floor apartment, wrapped in bedding. They had each been stabbed multiple times with a kitchen knife that was later found in the sink. They were pronounced dead at the scene. According to police, Sanders told investigators that the killing had to do with, quotes, voodoo stuff. Sanders' sentence of life is without the possibility of parole.
All right, just a sickening story there. Moving on, an NYPD police officer has been suspended pending an investigation following a shocking viral video. We want to warn you, it may be a bit disturbing to watch. The video posted this week shows an officer attacking and beating a 12-year-old black girl outside of a New York City middle school. Reports say it took place in Staten Island. There is no context to the brief 8-second video, which shows students surrounding 2 uniformed officers and the girl being attacked. The other officer can be seen throwing at least 1 blow at the 12-year-old girl. Now, NYPD said officers were intervening in a fight that was already underway, but the actions of those officers is under investigation by the Internal Affairs Bureau.
New details this morning regarding Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin. He remains in critical condition and in intensive care. However, the team says he's showing signs of improvement. Hamlin's agent is reporting that he is awake and has been holding hands with family in the hospital. The Bills also tweeting out, while still critically ill, he has demonstrated that he appears to be neurologically intact. His lungs continue to heal and he is making steady progress. Now, meanwhile, sports apparel company Fanatics says it will donate all sales of Hamlin's jersey to his foundation. Since Monday, the foundation has received over $6 million in donations. Several NFL teams, including the Commanders, have donated. And this was really great news to hear.
Amazing
especially
news. Following
that very devastating play. I mean, it's one thing to hear about it, it's another thing to see it on tape. Sounds like prayers are being answered.
And the concern with him being down so long, it's good to hear that neurologically, at least according to these reports, he seems to be coming around and or intact, which was, when I was thinking about the situation, a main concern. I know they had him sedated, but when you come up out of that, where exactly are you, neurologically speaking? And so it's good to hear that he is communicating, holding hands. Touch is so very important in situations like that. I kind of went through that with my dad. But it's just an amazing story, and the prayers continue. I mean, this isn't done. He's really just beginning this battle. So let's not forget to continue to keep his family and the whole NFL family in prayers. And for other folks who are just going through and not in the best of health, let's just be prayerful across the board.
And a major shout out to the medical team and especially the emergency response team. You know, just yesterday we were reporting on the use of AEDs. These are the devices that folks use to really save lives. You know, there's CPR training and then there's AED training. And what a difference it made having those emergency responders on hand and having that technology on hand to be able to save his life. And so really good news to hear, and we're happy to report it.
That's right. And come on with the money. You better support this man and his cause.
$6 million.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's
it's a beautiful thing. All right, let's go to the West, where a state of emergency has been declared in California as a powerful storm system moves through the area. The storm is bringing heavy rain and high winds and comes just days after a New Year's Eve storm left one dead and flooded countless homes and businesses. Officials are particularly concerned about the Central Coast.
Anticipate that this may be one of the most challenging and impactful series of storms to touch down in California in the last 5 years. If the storm materializes as we anticipate, we could see widespread flooding, mudslides, and power outages in many communities. The governor activated the State Operations Center to its highest level.
Now, the state was hit by a bomb cyclone with hurricane force winds. The strongest wind slammed the Bay Area with speeds as high as 85 miles per hour. There's fears of more flooding and mudslides as the state was just hit by a different storm system over the weekend, bringing deadly floods. Now, the National Weather Service says there are more signs lingering into next week. Stay safe.
The family of rapper Theophilus London says he's been found safe and is doing well. London's family reported him missing to the LADP last week, saying that the 35-year-old had not been in contact since July. The Grammy-nominated artist was reportedly last seen in October on Skid Row after leaving his home on Ventura Boulevard. No other details have been released, with the family thanking the public for its support, but asking for privacy, and that was the LAPD.
Yeah, that's good news. All right, a serial scammer who gained popularity as a teenager when he impersonated a doctor is heading back to prison after pleading guilty to stealing more than $10,000 from his employer. 25-year-old Malachi Love Robinson, you remember this guy, received a 2-year, 4-month sentence after pleading guilty in Palm Beach County, Florida, to grand theft and organized scheme to defraud, that is. Now, in 2020, Robinson was working as a salesperson for a shipping company. Now, instead of having customers make payments to the company, Love Robinson had them send money to accounts that he controlled. Now, you may remember this guy. He was the he first came to national attention in 2016 as an 18-year-old when he was arrested after opening the New Birth Life Center Medical Center, identifying himself as a gynecologist and calling himself Dr. Love. So I'm just surprised that he's out and about and able to just, scamming seems to be in his blood, and this is what he seems to be prone to. And I'm just surprised there haven't been more, restrictions, or he hasn't maybe been sought after, or, maybe that employer was just giving him a chance. And this just seems to be something that he's prone to do. So he might need to stay put for a little bit longer if there is a lesson to be learned. Sometimes people just don't learn the lesson. Yeah.
And I think it's also a reminder for us that we need to, trust but verify, right? And so, this isn't the first case that I've heard of somebody posing as a doctor or as a healthcare professional when they really don't have those credentials. And so it's just another reminder that we've got to be on the lookout and just verify that people are who they say they are, and don't be so quick to believe that people are who they say they are.
Especially as we continue in this social media era, when you can pretty much front, as we used to say back in my day, front and make up whoever it is you want to be. And so, across my social media accounts, I've always prided myself, if you will, of just showing up and staying genuine and authentic. And then, knowing when to place those boundaries when sometimes you just need to keep things and moments to yourself. But you have generations now who this is what they were born into, this is all they know, and this is how they express themselves. And sometimes I think they get caught up in another term, Willy Bobos. That's what we used to say back in the day. Oh,
Willy Bobo?
Willy Bobos, honey.
Who's a Willy Bobo?
People who fake the funk. That's old school too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I learned something new today.
Yes, you do. Generation.
Millennial.
No.
A millennial generation. But well, moving on. Meanwhile, in the nation's capital, the House is really stuck. And as we wait for a vote number 7 today, there are no signs that anyone has budged. Take a look at this.
Speaker has not been elected. A speaker has not been elected. A speaker has not been elected.
3 more votes and 3 more fails for Kevin McCarthy.
Are you angry at the people who have caused this situation?
Not at all. I think it's productive.
Not productive enough, though, for the House to elect a new speaker. In fact, McCarthy lost one Republican, Indiana's Victoria Spartz, who simply voted present. And he keeps coming up short with 20 others who support someone else, most recently, Florida's Byron Donalds.
Leadership is something that is earned here in the nation's capital, not just given. And that's not an anti-Kevin statement. That is an indictment of the political process here in Washington, D.C.
Holdout conservatives are still pushing for more concessions from McCarthy, ranging from plum committee assignments to expanding the power of rank-and-file lawmakers. Even a McCarthy endorsement from the former president, Donald Trump, did nothing to change the numbers. And as most Republicans support McCarthy, there is growing frustration.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
The 6th vote wrapped up yesterday afternoon, and the 7th vote wrapped up this morning. We'll bring you the latest on whether McCarthy made any progress, which is his critics, are not suspecting that he will be making very much progress today.
Yeah, and continuing with this story, in the 4th and 5th round of House voting, McCarthy's loudest opponents nominated Byron Donalds of Florida, who you saw there in that clip. Now, the nomination of Byron Donalds for House Speaker comes after Democrats tap Hakeem Jeffries, making some think this is just a token nomination and has lawmakers using black candidates as pawns in their political game. Florida Rep. Byron Donalds on Wednesday received 20 votes for Speaker of the House, but it's nowhere near the 218 votes needed to be elected, but it was just enough to block the bid of House Minority Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And it's a cause for a celebration. The largest ever class of the Congressional Black Caucus was officially sworn in at a ceremony this week. Nevada Rep. Stephen Horsford has become its new leader, replacing outgoing Chairwoman Representative Joyce Beatty of Ohio. The historic class of 58 representatives are celebrating the milestone from the first CBC from 50 years ago, when there were only 13 members, with Representative Shirley Chisholm as the lone woman. And the rest of the caucus leadership is made up of New York Rep. Yvette Clarke as the first vice chair, Louisiana Rep. Troy Carter as the second vice chair, Georgia Rep. Lucy McBath as secretary, and Washington Rep. Marilyn Strickland as the caucus's whip. All are Democrats.
Speaking of Democrats, 25-year-old Maxwell Frost will be the youngest member of Congress after winning the election to replace Congresswoman Val Demings in District 10. But will have to couch surf because he's unable to purchase a home or rent an apartment. Frost has spent the past few weeks in orientation and putting together his staff, which he says will be a mix of experience and his younger movement. But he's still without a Washington address as the House comes to session. He said on a morning news show that he still hasn't gotten a lease since being elected in November due to the rates and his credit score. Frost says he quit his full-time job because he knew that to win at 25 years old, he needed to be a full-time candidate to win.
All right, back to this Santos story. A rally and protest is being held in D.C. this week to hold newly elected Representative George Santos accountable for lies protesters say he told his voters. Demonstrators say Santos has told countless lies to supporters, but the most offensive at the moment, a tweet that has resurfaced of the lawmaker saying that he was biracial. Santos saying in his tweet from 2020 that there's no need for the Negro national anthem and that the Star-Spangled Banner is good for all Americans because Dr. King didn't die for us to be segregated. That's a quote now from that tweet. Now, when asked what races he was mixed with, Santos replied, quote, Caucasian and black. Now, Santos has yet to provide context or an explanation into his ethnicity. Tweets also recount Santos lying about being Jewish and his former work background, and the nose just keeps growing and growing and growing. It is unreal how he's still been able to advance to get to this point.
His Pinocchio nose is growing so much that it might poke you through the TV screen.
My goodness. I mean, it's just like a privilege kind of thing where you're just not questioned. When nobody does any research or, I mean, let me submit a resume somewhere. They're calling everybody.
It's just another reminder that we've got to trust but verify, right? And are people who they say they are? I mean, remember, we're living in the age of misinformation and disinformation. And so it's not all that hard for people to, create this mirage, this idea of who they are. And to use social media, to quickly rinse and repeat, so that, people have this idea of who they are, which is far from who they really are. And so, if you want to know the end, you got to understand the beginning. Yeah. And, this guy's only getting started, but I have a feeling that there's probably more lies that are going to come out as he enters into his first term in Congress.
Yeah, and I know that people of mixed heritage come out in all kinds of different shades and shapes and things like that. But knowing his lying record and him coming up saying that he's black and Caucasian as a means to justify his tweet, it was a bit much.
It is a bit much, and hopefully the voters in his district are paying extra close attention. Yeah. I mean, talk about being sold a bill of goods. Somebody running on a platform and running with an identity that is far from who they show up as once they get to Congress. I mean, this is one of the things that frustrates people. Yeah. This is why people are so cynical. Some folks are so cynical about politics is because they feel like, people get there and they do what they want to do.
Yeah, and maybe the voters in this area will be a little bit more vigilant next time around.
We shall see. Well, coming up, there's no end in sight for Southwest Airlines, as now more customers are coming forth against the company.
Yeah, we'll have the latest in that lawsuit and those impacted the most by the airline's cancellations when we return. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.